Ian Rappaport just announced that the Miami Dolphins will not be franchise tagging Christian Wilkins. Now, this hurts my heart as Christian Wilkins was one of mine, and I'm sure one of your favorite Miami Dolphins players that we've seen for a long time now.
Why am I so sad?
Drafted in 2019 at the start of the rebuild, Wilkins came in and just continued to get better year in, year out. Tremendous player on and off the field. I'm sure we all love his mic'd up moments as he's one of the funniest Dolphins players. Probably the best mic'd up videos of all time.
You're mad! You're mad too, and you're mad!
Overall, great player and a great Dolphin. All of his teammates love him, and all of the fans love him. So it hurts the heart that he's no longer going to be a Miami Dolphin. But I'm going to break down why I think the Dolphins are making this decision and the potential implications. So I, too, found it very interesting that the Dolphins chose not to use the franchise tag on Christian Wilkins. But the more I pondered on it, the more I see a reasoning as to why they did it. I'm not saying it is the right reason, but trying to understand why. And the main thing I think it is because the franchise tag holds his cap hit pretty high, which the Dolphins can't necessarily afford to do at this current moment at the start of free agency. So it would be a $20-something million cap hit. And obviously the Dolphins could do a tag and a trade, and that's what I was thinking. If you don't just let him walk, at least get some value from him. And the thing is that the oppositions or the people that you're trying to trade with also know that you have to trade him by this deadline. So they have leverage in that aspect. And based off the compensatory formula, if you're not going to get a third-round pick from him at minimum, it's not worth doing so. So with a loaded defensive tackle market with Chris Jones, Leonard Williams, and other solid defensive linemen hitting the market, teams aren't necessarily going to go out and trade a pick as well as give someone a big contract for, as well as the fact that they have the leverage and they have a deadline. Because if the Dolphins aren't able to make a deal by the start of free agency, then they screw themselves, because then you can't go out and get some of the players that are going to get signed early. So it's a risk of trying to get more than what you're going to get from the compensatory pick. And I just don't think the Dolphins viewed that as a risk they were willing to take. But nonetheless, like I said, I'm gut-wrenched by this decision.
Very sad.
I'm going to root for Christian Wilkins no matter what. But that's why I think the Dolphins chose not to go that route. So as to why I think the Dolphins chose not to pay Christian Wilkins, obviously they tried to get an extension done. During training camp, it was very noted. I think Wilkins sat out. The Dolphins talked to his representation, and Chris Greer came out and said that, hey, we made an offer. He bet on himself. Even his agent thought it was a fair offer. It's just Wilkins chose that, listen, I'm going to bet on myself. I want to get paid this amount of money, and I know if I hit the open market, you most likely get that kind of money just because you set bidding wars. So Wilkins bet on himself, and it worked out. The Dolphins tried to keep him. They couldn't, and that's just kind of how it was. It's unfortunate, but then the Dolphins pivoted off of that and extended Zach Sealer, who Zach Sealer isn't as good as Christian Wilkins, but he's close. Like, for the value you're getting Zach Sealer for, in comparison to Wilkins, it's a bargain. And it wouldn't necessarily make the most sense to be paying, you're already paying Bradley Chubb, you're already paying Zach Sealer, to pay another top premium position on the defensive line. It's just you have to allocate resources elsewhere. You need to kind of deepen the squad in terms of, for the cost of Christian Wilkins, you can really add 3 to 5 quality players in this free agency because of positional value. Because Christian Wilkins is going to get $20 to $25 million a year on average. And I know based off cap hits and guarantees, it can be misconstrued and allocated differently. But just at that value, you can get 4 to 5 solid players, whether it's you can go out and get a good offensive guard. You can get some interior defensive linemen who aren't going to be Christian Wilkins, but you can get somebody who's going to stop the run on early downs like Christian Wilkins did, and then you can sign someone who's decent against pass rushing. So you're not going to get a Christian Wilkins, but you can get 2 players probably half the price of Christian Wilkins individually. So just names I was throwing out there. A'Shawn Robinson's a great player against the run. So you have an early down run stuffer for pretty cheap. I'm pretty sure his projected contract's around $3 to $4 million. And then you go out and get a guy like Adam Butler, who was in Miami, and he was a pretty good pass rusher while he was in Miami, and you can get him for also pretty cheap. So say you get those 2 players for $7 million. That's $18 million left that would have been given to Christian Wilkins, that you can go out and then get Deshaun Elliott for, say, $4 million. Then you have $14 million left, and you can go out and get an inside backer like maybe a Josie Jewell or a Willie Gay. I don't know how the markets are going to work out, but just like that, now you have 2 defensive linemen to replace Wilkins. You have an inside backer that's pretty solid. You have a starting safety. You can go out and get 2 guards because they're cheap. Like, we got Isaiah Wynn for $2 million. And once again, when you're bargain shopping in free agency, it's not always going to work out because there's a reason that their value isn't super high, but you can kind of set a solid base for the team with these cheap free agents, and then that allows you in the draft to go out and take best player available. You're not handcuffed to, oh, now we need to draft a defensive lineman in the first round because we lost Wilkins and we have a hole, and then you end up reaching for a guy that doesn't work out. It's just not a good way to operate. So as much as it hurts to lose the player, because we all love him, he's a great player on and off the field, like, you want to keep your own. And it's a very difficult decision, but I honestly think it's the right one because you need to spread the assets out along the team. And like I just kind of explained, you can give it to multiple different positions. So although it is a tough, gut-wrenching decision, I think Chris Grier and the Miami Dolphins made the right one. Comment your thoughts down below. Appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.